what is old is new again in District 3. We're happy to have Supervisor Peskin here, who we supported wholeheartedly last fall in his election back to the seat in District 3. So, Senator Peskin. Supervisor Peskin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Glenn, and thanks to SF for Democracy and to Democracy for America. It was a pleasure appearing at your endorsement meeting, and I want to give profound thanks to Tom Brown, who went the extra mile to make. It's kind of incredible when you're sitting in your campaign headquarters doing all the stuff that happens in campaign headquarters, all of which everybody in this room has experienced, and Susan knows, and everybody knows. And Jim Dean walks in and walks over and says, "Hey, are you the candidate?" And you're like, "Wow, are you Howard's brother?" So that was a very cool moment. And by the way, I mean, not only did that mean a lot to me personally, but just having that kind of a visit was pretty incredible. I said many times on the campaign trail that I was not running because I wanted to get back into office. I was running because I wanted all of us to be back at City Hall. And I think that's what this little 1/11th of the city race represents. This city lost its way in the last bunch of years, in my humble opinion. We both to the good and the bad, have seen more change in the last handful of years than we've seen literally since the gold rush.
Yeah.
And we all know what it means. We know what it means relative to the ripping apart of the fabric of communities, to the displacement of our friends and our neighbors and artists and poets and lower income people. What makes this city worth living in? Yeah, we live in a beautiful city, but we also live in a city that's beautiful because of the people who live in it, and that has been ripped asunder. And I think that what happened in District 3 was really a message that was written far outside of the northeast corner of this city, because it was groups like San Francisco for Democracy, and actually many of the people in this room who showed up in that headquarters Saturday after Saturday and afternoon after afternoon and took the last 2 weeks off to make it happen, whether it was the FDR Democratic Club, thank you Jonathan Lyons, whether it was you, Denise, who was in there any number of afternoons. Terry Fry was MIA for a little bit, but swung in at the end. And by the way, the kind of endorsements that the campaign got came from people who also were feeling that fundamental disenfranchisement by the likes of, and this is not just big tech, it's a handful of activists, I think reactionary players, we can name their names. Their names are Ron Conway. I have no ill will towards our chief executive. As a matter of fact, I knew Ed Lee when he was the city purchaser, when I first became a supervisor a decade and a half ago. I knew Ed Lee in his incarnation as the head of DPW. He and I used to go out on Saturday mornings and paint out graffiti. I voted for Ed Lee to make him, with the majority, with actually a unanimity of my colleagues, the city administrator. But that was a different Ed Lee. That was an Ed Lee that was not taken over by these larger forces. And so this is not about individual people, this is not about personalities. And fundamentally, I think that the success of the District 3 race was a repudiation of the politics of negativity, of the politics of personality, and an embracement of the politics of real issues, about real people, that has been missing in our public dialogue and discourse for arguably the last half a dozen years. And so I'm very, very proud, not only of our campaign and of our volunteers and of the District 3 voters, but of the entire city, because when you are up against, do you know this was the most expensive supervisor's race in the history of the city and county, bar none? Bar none. Do you all know that the entire thing, door to door, 2 campaigns, and all of the independent expenditures combined is north of $2.5 million. Can you believe that? I ran for supervisor 15 years ago in the year 2000, back in the day when we had runoffs, back in the day where there was not one drop of independent expenditure money, when I was accused by my colleagues who I ended up serving with, I'm talking about Matt Gonzalez, Sophie Maxwell, Jake McGoldrick, Chris Daly, of having run a relatively expensive campaign in District 3, which the runoff and the general combined cost $154,000. That was 15 years ago. That's not the rate of inflation. That's the rate of buying a society. That's the rate of buying a society. And as these people are getting richer and richer, it's no big deal if you're Airbnb and you lay down $8.3 million against Prop F when the Yes on F, Fix the Mess side was able to raise really a remarkable amount of money, $350,000. I mean, that's an incredible amount of money. Going back to the District 3 race, the people of this town raised into our race $430,000, which was matched by $150,000 in public financing to $570,000. We finished $22,000 in debt. So basically, for $600,000, we were able to have, I think, a grassroots, neighborhood-based, real representative beat the powers that have taken over this town. And hopefully that will send a message that will resonate come this November when we have a number of seats up in District 1 where Jonathan Lyons is running, in District 3 where, as my wife reminds me, I'm on the ballot. I am a candidate. Actually, I haven't taken the papers out yet, but I'm actually a candidate for supervisor again. I ran for a seat that is 1 year in duration. So I have to do it again, and all of the odd number districts are up. I wanted to say a few things about my early experiences. This is now, I got sworn in on December the 8th, so I'm at week 6 now, and it's a very, very different experience than the experience that I had for 8 years of my life between 2001 and 2009. And I'm getting to know my colleagues, many of whom supported me. I'm talking about Supervisors Marr, Kim, Avalos, Campos, Yee. So theoretically, if we all stay together, that's the magic number of 6 for at least the next year. And I'm building relationships with the supervisors who didn't support me, many of whom I knew. I knew the district supervisor from these parts. He was a deputy city attorney, as was David Campos when I was on the board of supervisors. So I actually have, Katie Tang was an aide to my then colleague Carmen Chu, now our assessor recorder. So I know many of these people. But I'll tell you, there's a very interesting dynamic that I am discovering, and I'm not talking out of school and I'm not being disrespectful, Steph, which is, it's a risk-adverse bunch of folks. I think it's entirely honorable to go out there into the political arena and state your case and lose. It's okay. Matter of fact, some of my funnest votes were dissenting from the rest of the Board of Supervisors on a 9-2 vote with my colleague Sean Ellsburn joining me, or me joining Sean Ellsburn. And sometimes I call Sean up and I say, hey Sean, history proved us right. We were right on that issue. Right now there's this kind of mentality of, if we can't get to 6, we should all vote for it. And I want to change that dynamic. As a matter of fact, I think regardless of my political prowess or what I represent, just sitting there on Tuesday afternoon, just the presence of somebody who is minding and watching the store and is not scared of losing has already started to change the dynamic. And that's kind of a Zen concept, but the reality is, people look around, they're like, wow, he's willing to lose 10-1. Or on my first day, and after the election, my wife and I went to where we always go to, Kathmandu, and we went on a long 20-day walk in the Himalaya. And as the world would have it, our plane, which went Kathmandu, Bangkok, Hong Kong, 6 hours in the airport in Hong Kong, San Francisco, landed at SFO on December the 8th at 10 o'clock in the morning. Sonny Angulo, who is the best staff anybody could ever ask for, came and picked us up, went home, took a shower, put on my suit, went to City Hall, ran through Dennis Herrera's office, said, I do, and on the way to my board meeting, one of my colleagues said, this is about 30 Van Ness. Does anybody know about the 30 Van Ness deal? 30 Van Ness is a city-owned piece of property on the corner of Van Ness and Market. Huge piece of property that the city was in an agreement to sell off and use the proceeds to give to a developer, to buy another piece of property, to build a city office building at the old Goodwill site. And anyway, it's a long, complicated deal. But the bottom line is the city got an appraisal for that property at $87 million and entered into a deal to sell it for $80. And I said to one of my colleagues, actually, as I read this on the internet in Kathmandu, this deal does not look good. And would you be willing to kill this deal? And I got back, and that individual said, hey, you know what? I don't think we have 6 votes, so let's all vote for it. And I was like, it's totally honorable. I don't mind losing. We should vote what's right. And the individual said, hey, you got to go talk to this one colleague who may or may not be with us. And I spoke to that individual literally I went into this person's office and I said, here are the 5 reasons that this deal is really bad for the taxpayers. It's like, this is bad politics, it's bad policy, it's bad economics, it's bad. At any rate, we not only won that 6, we won it by 7. And one of the people who was in the dissent came up to me afterwards and said that they wanted to have their vote back. It would have been 8, right? And so, that's the kind of thing. And this is not about winners and losers. This is about changing the dynamic that somehow this cloud that has descended on the city, maybe we can huff and puff and blow it away. So with that, thank you for your support. Thank you for your volunteerism. Thank you what you've done to help stave those same forces from gobbling up City College.
They're still gobbling.
Somebody said, this is not my material. We never win these fights. We are consigned to fight them again and again forever. So sometimes we're up and sometimes we're down, but they will always keep gobbling because it's always about making money. I ran on an affordability platform, and here we are doing all the things that we said we were going to do in the campaign. We have introduced a charter amendment because somehow in 2012, one of the most irresponsible, unfortunate things happened, which was the ordinance that was actually originally authored by my then colleague, Mark Leno, to create what's called an inclusionary housing, minimum percentage of on-site affordable housing that had to be built in new developments, got stuck in the charter. And as a result, the Board of Supervisors cannot do its job and raise it as the economy goes up or lower it as the economy goes down. When I left office, that 10% that was Leno's bill in 2001 had increased to 15%. In 2012, these ding-dongs, no offense, stuck it in the charter at 12%. In this huge booming economy, we should have been pushing that thing up north of 30%. As Jane Kim says, 40 is the new 30, right? Because we've gotten 40% affordable housing deals out of the Giants this last November, Seawall Lot 337. And so here we are. We introduced a charter amendment to take it out of the charter to increase it from 12% to 25%. You have never seen developers claim that the sky is going to fall like Gene and I have heard for the last few weeks. And they come in. This guy Oz Erickson says, I'm going to raise $2 million and I'm going to bury you. And I'm like, fine, bury me. Right? But that's what we've been up to. I believe that we can actually impose rent control on buildings built after 1979, or I should say,
Right on.
I believe that there is an exception in Costa-Hawkins that we can use without running afoul of the state preemption for buildings that are being built where the city grants a height increase or a density increase. Because Costa-Hawkins specifically says that there is a carve-out for matters of contract. And I believe that where we are rezoning with Central Soma, Market Octavia, etc., where we are increasing density or height, we can insist that any new rental unit be subject to the Rent Stabilization Act and Chapter 37 of the Administrative Code, and I am pursuing that legislation, and I'm going to need your help because everybody's going to come unglued on that. So, and then last but not least, because we've been talking a little bit about more affordability in new construction, rent control in new construction, what makes this town so great is our existing housing stock. It's rent control. It's beautiful. It has our friends and our neighbors and our artists and our poets that live in it. And our job is to preserve that first and foremost above all. And so let's look, as I say to my more moderate colleagues, which is, hey, I can do the new construction thing, but you can't speak out of both sides of your mouth. You can't, on the one hand, say, we're going to have a building bonanza, and on the other hand, say we're going to cannibalize our existing, primarily rent-controlled housing stock, because that's the the predominant land use type in this town. It's built before 1979, it's subject to the Act. And what are those two drivers? Those two drivers are short-term rentals, and primarily in my district, the Academy of Real Estate. Right? And so just, none of these things are easy. But
sure.
we called a hearing and had a hearing this last week about the Academy of Art.
Yes.
And I believe that their day to reckon with having taken literally hundreds of units of SRO, absolutely affordable, rent-controlled housing stock are about to come to an end. So with that, President Davis, Tom Brown, SF for Democracy and Democracy for America, and all of you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And Joni Eisen, thank you.
So any questions for the supervisor? I know we're getting close to closing time. Right here.
Is the mayor's bonus density program dead? If not, why not?
So, as I said before, nothing ever dies in politics. It just always comes out of the grave again. The technical answer to your question is no one's been given the chance to kill it yet. This Thursday, January 28th, at the Planning Commission is going to be a public hearing about this plan. That would be an overstatement, but about this concept. And then at some point, if the mayor and his chief sponsor, my colleague from the 4th Supervisorial District, choose to bring it to the board, it would come to Land Use Committee. I am apparently starting Monday, a member of Land Use Committee, and then it would go to the board. It does not seem to me to be a very cogent piece of public policy, but it is not dead yet.
Just an aside on that, a friend of mine attended the meeting in Sunset on the 19th, and so many people came who were opposed to this plan, and she asked for a straw poll. All right, all those who live out near the ocean, if I were to remove this density from along the ocean, would you sign up? And I was stunned to hear that she evidently has this power to just say, I'll take out this swath.
So, I mean, Barry, without getting into this piece of public policy, which will take us the rest of the night, and it's getting late and everybody wants to go home.
Right.
I'll just say this about that, which is whatever rocket scientists came up with this idea are drowning it in their own bathtub, because interestingly enough, that's what's happening, which is they're already saying, well, we're going to carve this out, we're going to carve that out, we're going to carve this out, and which is already an admission that they don't have a fully baked cake.
Yeah.
So with that, one last question.
Carol!
I have a question about, I live in Pacifica and I come to the
District
city a
12.
lot. District 12. And I come to the city. He owns property there, don't let him.
No, I don't own property. When I said I own property, I was talking about the Shark Park Golf Course, which the city owns in Pacifica. I didn't mean I meant we,
I was being facetious. Yeah. And that's why it's so well maintained.
I'm sorry about all of the lead from the...
Yeah, but we aren't holding that against you though. I think
The county of San Mateo actually has the county of San Francisco under an abatement order from the old Shark Park gun course that the Rec and Park Department of San Francisco has been dragging its feet on cleaning up for before I was in office the last time.
But I came here.
So the answer to your question is
there a plan?
no, of course not. My magic wand can't fix any of the things that I already talked about. But, and by the way, insofar as SF for Democracy and the Howard Dean movement is about more than San Francisco, we must all recognize what is true, which is this is a national issue. This is a national shame. This is not about people in San Francisco, albeit they are in San Francisco. This is about the huge income disparities and the huge dissolution of our mental health system. This has been going on since Ronald Reagan was the governor of the state of California. And there is no magic bullet that a city council member like myself or an individual member of Congress or somebody like Mark Leno in the state Senate is going to fix. This is the shame of this city. It is the shame of this state. It is the shame of this country. And relative to local stuff, we got to do what we got to do. I said when I was running, unlike my opponent, this navigation center concept, which we shouldn't get too excited about because there's just one and everybody likes a new, shiny thing, and everybody's like, oh, this has got to be the answer. I want one in District 3. I have actually gotten a potential site in District 3. I have actually gotten Sam Dodge and his predecessor, my former colleague Bevan Duffy, to come down there. We are actually having the Department of Real Estate negotiate to get a lease for this church in the middle of my district, where I will be filleted by the upper middle class people, of which I am one, who, I'm not going to fillet myself, to have a navigation center literally in the very heart of District 3 on Russian Hill. I believe that we need to go and get trailers and put them in empty parking lots on Division Street and get people out of tents and into trailers at a minimum, and I am working on that. But no, I'm not going to wave any magic wand. None of us are. It's the shame of this city. It's the shame of this country.
Thank you.
And with that, I'll say thank you to Supervisor.
Wow.
I'm going to ask it out loud. Well, I didn't want to take everybody's time. So, mainly because I live in a building like this. So, in the exemption of Costa-Hawkins, which I hear both sides when I ask this question, because there are exceptions, particularly before 1995. But, say, a building like mine, where it was built and the builder got deductions and a bit of a sweetheart deal for the city because he agreed to just be mixed. So there would be some Section 8 housing, some physically disabled folks that along with folks like myself. So I just wondering if that would be
I'm going to
because they are contractors.
I don't know the answer. How's that?
There you go. Well, that's why I wanted to say
Yeah, no, I don't. I shouldn't have made you do that.
No worries.
I used to play a lawyer on TV, but I'm not a lawyer, and I know just enough to be dangerous. And I'm always happy to admit that. Happy New Year, everybody. Juke Sunday, bye.